Good evening. I have 7 p.m. here in Historic Town Hall on April 9th, 2026. Before we call the meeting to order, I would just like to remind everyone that we are being televised and recorded by Sandwich Community Television. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Is anyone here to make a public comment? Please state your name and address, and you'll have 5 minutes.
Good evening, everyone. Jean Perini, 6 Piccadilly Road, Sandwich, Mass. I know I sound like a broken record. I won't go into great detail, but I know you all are aware that the Sandwich Republican Town Committee opposes the joint DPW fire station proposal, revised proposal. However, it is our expectation tonight that the Select Board will move the proposal to special town meeting, most likely to be held in November. One question: what is the town's plan if Sandwich residents do not approve the funding of the joint DPW fire station at town meeting or at the ballot? Will it be just to operate as is? Or will you bring it up again at a future town meeting? Or will you come up with a less expensive plan? Second, I would like to ask the Select Board to prepare a document showing what the tax increase would be for this project, along with the annual average tax increase for properties assessed at $700,000, $800,000, $900,000, and $1 million. Third, I would like to ask the Select Board to make sure that the fiscal year 2026 financial budget data can be accessed by a link on the front page of the town website. The information is embedded in the website, but it is not easily accessed, and it should be, at this time of year, very easily accessed by the residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Perini. Anybody else for public comment?
James Rogers, 197 Main Street, speaking for the Sandwich Tree Landscape Advisory regarding Snowy Owl application for a liquor license. Apart from the wisdom of granting a license to a coffee shop, I'd like to speak to the environmental issue. Nothing much has changed there. Cars are still parking all around the green area. The park is being degraded. I hope in your deliberation you will take this into account, that nothing really is different. And this has gone on for a couple of years. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers.
Betty Lyons, 207 Old Main Street, Sandwich. And I'm here tonight about Snowy Owl Coffee Roasters application for a liquor license. I wasn't sure if I was supposed to speak now or later, but I am against Snowy Owl receiving a liquor license of any kind until their parking issue is resolved. There's an ongoing and blatant disregard for the neighborhood by using Main Street for employee parking all day. The parking issue has never been resolved, and it's getting worse, just as was mentioned. And I sent an email to you all on January 17th, and I spoke in person on January 29th, and nothing has changed. Since that time, I've also become aware of the state law concerning parking that is to be enforced by cities and towns. And I became aware of this reading the driver's manual from the state of Massachusetts. And I printed out the page in question in case you want it. But it's in Massachusetts, you may not park your vehicle in certain places within 20 feet of an intersection. Now, Snowy Owl's employees park on top of the intersection of Route 6A and Main Street all day, every day. Forget 20 feet, they're on top of it. They also, you're not supposed to in Massachusetts park in front of a driveway blocking it. They park right across from the end of my driveway all day, every day. And when the snow was there, it impedes us getting out of our driveway. So we had to call over there and ask them to move their car. And they do that, but in an emergency, am I gonna call over there? I mean, a fire truck or an ambulance couldn't get by if I can't get out of the driveway. Also in Massachusetts, you're not supposed to park on a sidewalk, curb, center traffic island, or median. They do this all day, every day. They park right on that median. It's just destroying the green space. That spot needs to be striped. And going by the offsets, maybe only 2 or 3 cars could really park there on that stretch of between Dewey and Main Street on the right there, and then same on Dewey. And it really needs to be limited to 2 hours. Even before a beer and wine license should be considered. With the snowfall, it was just terrible. And I've been here for 20 years, and you know, I don't understand why this guy who owns Snowy Owl is being allowed to skirt the laws. Nobody else. I go all over town. Nobody else is parking on top of intersections and medians. I mean, also, these 2 spaces that are adjacent to the building that was never in the special permit, that was supposed to be for deliveries. People park there, nonstop. And when they back out right onto 6A, and there's a crosswalk there. And there's no bollard or curb height. I mean, we have so many people that drive into buildings because, you know, they hit the gas instead of the brake. So there's no bollard preventing anybody from those spaces driving right into the building and hitting someone, or driving onto the sidewalk there and hitting someone. And they do it, and they use it all the time. And nowhere else in town do I see, I have to wear earplugs all night because he has dumpster drops and deliveries at 3:30, 4:30, 5:30 in the morning. I don't see this anywhere else. I see everybody else abiding by the noise ordinance of 7 a.m. So I don't understand this special privilege here. I shouldn't have to inch out of my driveway. I'm paying taxes for 20 years, and I want to see, road maintenance and the median maintained to what people are expecting on scenic Route 6A. So there won't be any more accidents too, because it was a big accident last summer. So I'm just totally against somebody who's not even being restricted as far as his parking now, getting more business, more hours, and more cars coming to his business. Anything else? No? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lyons.
Good evening. Kevin Strahl, 12 Old Farm Lane. Actually is here for a different agenda item, but looking at your agenda, I see that under old business is the recommended Public Works Fire Station project. I'm not sure what your intent there is tonight, if you're doing some type of vote or not. I fully acknowledge we need a new DPW building and we need a new fire station. I do think the shift to place DPW on Quaker Meeting House is a relatively new development that I think should have greater socialization in the community. It's, from looking at it, it is right across the driveway from Oak Ridge School. So it's more traffic to what is already a very busy intersection at many times of the day. It's also, I'm not sure exactly what the acreage is. I realize it's town land, but it's next to conservation land, and we're taking more green space away from where it was, as compared to what we already have, is arguably an industrial, called an industrial site, or for where the current DPW location is. So, and if I read the read-aheads correctly, the savings is about $500,000. Not making light of that, that's real money. But over a project, that's 1% of what the project would be. That could change significantly. And for something that's going to serve the town for the next 30, 40 years, that's a relatively small amount. I would ask you to ponder, what are we giving up by losing that green space and causing greater congestion right in front of a school? Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Searle. Anybody else for public comment? Okay. Moving along to review and approval of minutes, may I suggest that we handle them separately?
Excuse me. Make a motion, we approve the minutes of March 26, 2026.
Second.
Motion by Mr. George, second by Mr. Hockter. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous, 4-0.
Make a motion, we approve April 2nd, 2026.
Second.
Motion by Mr. George, second by Mr. Hockter. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous. Thank you. Moving along to town manager report.
Just a couple of quick updates. Our next meeting is 2 weeks from tonight on April 23rd. I want to stress that the next two meetings I'm going to bring up are still tentative, but they're almost nailed down, so I should be able to confirm next week. But in trying to coordinate schedules with the town moderator, town council, and town clerk, it looks like the preparation meeting for the annual town meeting is leaning towards Monday, April 27th at 4 o'clock at 100 Route 6A. So when that gets finalized, I'll make sure I pass the word on that, and obviously we'll post it. And then also tentatively, after checking numerous schedules, a follow-up meeting on the Town Hall Annex disposition, which would be an executive session only meeting, is tentatively planned for Wednesday, April 22nd at 2 o'clock, again at 100 Route 6A. When that gets posted, I'll distribute the agenda cover sheet and let everyone know, but I would think early next week I'll be able to nail down both of those. Couple of quick items related to the agenda. The individuals coming in on the farmers market have withdrawn their requests, so they're not going to be in. And Melissa wanted me to update you that the Alcoholic Beverages Control Commission is going to hold a special training session for liquor licenses, liquor license staff, board members, law enforcement, etc. on Wednesday, April 29th from 12:30 to 2 at Cape Cod Community College. So she's going to attend. We're going to send out the notice to all license holders to see if they're interested in going, and she also wanted to make sure if we passed along that if any of the board members are interested, let her know and we can register us. They were just hoping to know roughly how many people are coming. But again, that's Wednesday, April 29th from 12:30 to 2 at 4 Cs with the Alcoholic Beverages Control Commission. And I think most of the other updates related to topics later on the agenda. I will just say that For several months, our Human Resources Department has been working on an update to the personnel policies and procedures, which we're always looking at as laws change, et cetera. There's a couple of newer policies as things modernize that we're trying to address. So the plan is to have town council, who's already reviewed it once, go through it again. And I would think sometime, hopefully before July, we'll be in to seek a vote from the board on some relatively minor changes, but it's really important to keep those up to date. And that's about it.
Thank you very much. Correspondence, statements, and announcements. Anybody?
I would just, on the license thing with the ABCC, and I saw that posted some places today, and I did add it to my calendar, but I think we should strongly encourage our license holders to send some representative, and I know that we held a session here with town council, and I think it was 3, 4, 5 years ago, but, and I know this is only really a 45-minute session if you read the whole notice, even though it looks like 2 hours, but it would be worthwhile for folks to have someone attend. I hate to tell our license holders they all need to find an employee to go spend 45 minutes in the middle of the day to make it to Barnstable, but I do think it's a worthwhile thing to do.
I don't disagree. Thank you. Anybody else? All right, I just have a couple, if you don't mind. Yesterday, a school committee meeting. The Facilities Condition Assessment Report generated by Habib and Associates will be assessed by a subcommittee with emphasis on key aspects. Dr. Quinn reviewed the district signature instructional practices, which focuses on learning and leading. The school resource officers were introduced by the Sandwich Police Department. Thank you for your service, Police Officer Mark Peterson and Police Officer Dan Holloran. Both were Sandwich Middle High School graduates and under the guidance of Lieutenant Paul Grigorenko. The Superintendent's Evaluation Committee will report at the April 29th meeting. Going forward, the Sandwich Knights Theater Company will be opening Dear Evan Hansen tomorrow at the Sandwich Middle High School Auditorium at 7 p.m. Sandwich Cares will meet on Monday, April 13th, in the Sandwich Center for Active Living at 5:30 p.m. Okay. Staff meeting. In accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 138, the Sandwich Select Board will hold a public hearing on Thursday, April 9th, 2026 at 7:05 p.m. in the Sandwich Historic Town Hall Auditorium, located at 130 Main Street, Sandwich, Massachusetts, to consider the application for a new annual on-premises wine and malt liquor license for Snowy Owl Coffee Roasters, LLC, located at 161 Route 6A, Sandwich, Massachusetts, 02563. Michael Orlando Einswain as manager. Anyone wishing to be heard on the subject will be afforded an opportunity at that time. Motion to open the public hearing.
Make a motion, we open the public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Mr. George, second by Mr. Hockter. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Thank you for having us. Manuela Inswain, just for the record, it's not Michael, Manuel. I have here Melanie O'Keefe, my attorney. So yeah, thank you for having me. We are applying, as you know, we are a coffee roasters. We operate a coffee shop. We also roast and bake goods on site. Just for the request of customers for private events through these last 5 years, we are here. We opened our location in 2021. June 2021, sorry. Since then, it's been an amazing town to be here. We start our business in Brewster, and Sandwich is our third location. In these 5 years, it's been very well received. A lot of customers and community, what we are doing here in Sandwich. At the same time, we have always requests for private events, after-hour events, community events, and every time we want to offer something for the evening, like beer and wine, we have to go for a special permit every night. So we have been doing that for the last 5 years, but you know, sometimes the cost of those permits come more what we do on those evenings. So just for the requirement of our customer base and our offerings, I'm applying for this beer and wine license to offer as part of our rest offerings. Parallel, we are asking an abutter list again today. I didn't receive it on time, but we are proposing also the extension of our hours from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. To be able to serve the wine and beer with some tapas, small food items at night going along with that. We have that permit also, just in case it matters. Our location in Brewster also got the same license. It's the same offerings we do in Brewster, and we will do in the same on the evenings there, beer and wine and non-alcoholic mocktails for people who don't drink. That's that. Just to address some comments, just to clarify the previous neighbors. We are trying to do something good here. We're trying to run a business, a year-round business, providing jobs to young professionals. We have, on the peak of our summer, we have 70 town team members that work for the Snowy Owl, work with the Snowy Owl. And we want to protect that job force as well and giving opportunity to young people here on the Cape on a seasonal economy. Providing these new sides of the business help us to provide year-round business. Just to clarify some comments, we already went to a Board of Appeal and we discussed the parking. We are parking our team members on a public park where also regular people are parking there, going for walks, customers are parking there. So it's not just Snowy Owl team members. Regardless, I'm always looking into it. Today I have a conversation with one of my neighbors to see if we can get an agreement to maybe find of that solution to park somewhere else. I'm working on that. I'm a person who like to talk, who like to discuss. Unfortunately, I didn't have the chance to talk directly with any of the neighbors who approached to this table. And I'm always try to respect. We are just a business who trying to make a living in a seasonal economy here. So I'm open to consider other options, and I'm looking to other options to just avoid the stress here. But some things like are not happening is accidents. I'm there since 2021. Never having an accident because our location. The accident the lady is referring to was a car coming from Main Street, not looking into 6A to the left, and a car straight hit that car. Even all our staff, we stopped operation and went to help that person. And but just to blame on us to that accident is a little bit too much, I believe. But I hear the concerns, I hear the discomfort, and as a good neighbor, I'm keep working to see how we can find another solution for that. But again, this is not part of that conversation, but I just want to leave clear that I'm working on that as well.
Thank you. Questions from the board?
So just to start at the beginning, so just so we have a clear understanding, you're seeking the liquor license to operate regular business hours from 6 to 10 p.m. basically and serve liquor and food. And then there's also special events that may or may not take place.
Correct.
So that's all just part of the, so you might be closed if there was a special event to the public, right?
Correct.
Which is fine. I just wanted to make sure that I understood that clearly. On the parking situation, this is an issue that you're aware of?
Yes, we went to a different
Or
board.
Were you surprised that your abutters and neighbors were here to make comment on this tonight?
No.
Okay. You know, we do not have the authority to deny your liquor license based on the parking, which you may or may not already be aware of. We are aware of that. That being said, you are here, and your neighbors are here, and the parking is a valid concern. And I think it's something that we need to find a solution to. We are aware of the ZBA application that took place and how that went down. And I appreciate and respect that you're looking for parking solutions. That being said, you know, your neighbors are here, and it is a quality of life issue, right? And I think some interesting points were made around how close you can park to an intersection and all that stuff, which somehow I seem to have forgotten all of those facts over time. But the reality is that as a board, we could decide to turn that street, and I'm not threatening you, but I'm just saying, we could change the parking rules on that road in 2 weeks and say there's no parking there.
Correct.
So my point is that I think there needs to be a solution. Because I know when it's your home, I understand this is your business, protecting jobs. I'm a small business owner, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm with you on all that stuff, right? But when it's your home and there's this type of quality of life issue and it happens 365 days a year, I think we need to find a solution. And I'm not trying to threaten you. We are willing to collaborate with you on that issue, but there needs to be a solution. And I know that we have multiple parking issues in downtown in different places with different things, but this is one that has come up quite a bit. I've talked to your abutters extensively in the last couple of months prior to this hearing. I wish that you had as well, to be honest with you, but it's okay. But it needs to be addressed. I don't have the solution, but we need to find one, because kind of the nuclear option is that we put that street as a no parking area or special event parking only. There's no question that the median there has been deteriorated based on the use of that space by parking. It continues to deteriorate. I'm very confident that with the snow that we had this winter that was an even bigger problem, but this is an issue that needs to be solved. I think, and I don't know, and it would really be a question maybe for the building department or for the abutters, but some of these other issues around noise and dumpsters and other things that I've been told about, hopefully those things have been addressed or eliminated already.
Can I comment on that, exactly that? Thank you for bringing it up. Like you all know, and as a business owner, you don't control the trash companies. Regardless, when I hire them, I show them our special permit, which says like dumpster don't be before 8 a.m. or 7 a.m. Sorry, I believe I don't have it here, but 7 a.m. I think. And that was before I signed the contract with the company, the disposal company. I showed them that the special permit. Everything started well, but then again, the rotation of the drivers was so big that then one came a new driver and they came at 6 a.m. And I don't know that because I'm not on the building. My employees are working they open at 6:30 a.m. So they are not standing there looking if the truck comes or not. So every time, was 2 times like the building commissioner at the time, Ian first and then the new one, communicate to me right away. I show them my proactivity to communicate directly to the company, and they promise the same company in the first time to don't do it again. They did it again. I canceled the relationship with them. I broke the contract, and I hired a new company that since then is not been an issue. And I am working with that company for the last 2 months, I believe, or 3 months. So since then, and I have a meeting with the current building department, he said like it's not been any issues regarding that. So they have systems where even the center office of the, I don't want to say the name, but the disposal company, they have a GPS tracking of the drivers, so they can confirm what time that driver is being stopping in our facility. So far, doesn't happen anything like that, but again, I depend on a third party, like I'm trusting and I'm paying to provide a service, and if something happen again, I will have to fire again that company and hire a third disposal company who can do that job as according to the special permit we have. So on my side, I can prove, like I've been communicating with my company partner for disposal, like I'm requesting that. So I know it's not part of the town, but maybe for the future, if the town can have some says to those companies to respect the law of the town, will be great to.
It's really your.
I know, I understand,
Your
I understand, I
responsibility.
understand. And I can show like my responsibility being covered, no?
I hear what you're saying about the third parties, but it's really your responsibility,
Totally,
right?
and
the
I
way
own
that
it.
The way that I look at it is that if the issue is coming to us, then it's probably a problem, right?
Yeah.
If we're hearing about it, if it's being reported to the town, we don't, we're not going out and proactively enforcing noise ordinances, right? Or even parking necessarily, unless there's a problem. So if it comes to us, that usually means there's a problem, and the problem's not being addressed somehow. So really what I'm suggesting and encouraging you to do is find opportunities to collaborate with your abutters, figure out how to manage those vendors, and just make these problems not exist before they come to us, because we can get involved, but sometimes our solution is a sledgehammer solution, and then we just look like a bunch of bad guys, which we are. Everybody knows it.
No, I
But
really appreciate
we
what
don't
you're
want to do
saying.
that, right?
No,
We
no.
don't want to do that.
I respect the
So,
work of everyone, and I respect that.
You're in a very unique location, I think, given the proximity of residences to your business, right? I mean, there's multiple homes right next door to you.
Yeah.
So it's an extra sensitive issue.
No, totally.
And just since you're here, this is the right time for us to talk about it.
I appreciate that, and like I said, I can prove to the board, to the office, or to
I
any
believe
specific
you.
office,
I
right?
believe you. But, these are just issues that we need to find solutions to.
Totally.
Because if your neighbors are happy, it's going to be better for you. It's
Oh,
not
no,
going to just
totally.
be better for them, it's going to be better for you.
Of course, and I wish those neighbors come directly to me so we can address things directly, because could be an explanation for that.
Listen, I don't want to get into the semantics of who's called who or not. I'm sure that everybody's talked to each other at some point. If we need to help with that somehow, I'm willing to help with that, but we just need to figure out how to get beyond this stuff, right? We can't just let it go on forever. So I'll defer to my colleagues.
Can I mention something else? Because was also, I remember now, like deliveries are not happening at 3 a.m. in the morning. For any food establishment, I don't know what time, 3 a.m. in the morning, who is delivering food from suppliers. Like, that doesn't happen because at 3 a.m. in the morning, we don't have any employees on the building. So I just want to clarify that.
Mr. Hoppner.
And maybe I missed it, but if you're having events here, is there any music or anything like that? Because we're not seeing a entertainment license.
Well, we will be applying for an entertainment license. We do special permits again. In the summer, we have some acoustic. Again, we don't bring any amplify equipment. It's just a person with a guitar sitting on the corner. And during the last summer, we have been applying for a special permit for music, live music. Like in a coffee shop, it's normal to have those kind of performance there. And in special events happen that way. That's part of what we want to do year round, so we don't have to do it every time we have a musician there.
And the only other thing that I have is I just want to, point out and just remind you that the capacity is 34 people.
Correct. Yeah. Something to mention too is not part of the discussion because we will be applying for a special permit for extend our hours. Also at night is less team members who will be operating on that night service or evening service, because it's not the bakery, it's not the coffee production, it's not the bagging production, it's not 5 baristas. So it's gonna be less team members, which I'm confident, like those parking for, let's say, 3-4 employees, we can handle it in our own parking lot as we do in the morning, no? But that's a different conversation for them.
Your current operating hours are controlled by the special permit from the ZBA?
Correct.
They stop at, 5 p.m., 6 p.m.?
We close at 5 p.m. for customers, correct.
So you can't open beyond 5 p.m. until you go back to the ZBA to
Correct.
amend or request to amend that special
Correct.
permit?
That's clear,
And
yeah,
there'll be a public hearing for that?
correct. We understand.
Okay. Well, I want to make sure everybody understands,
Yeah.
not just you. So that's why I wanted to bring it up.
My fellow members here, they've kind of summed up what I had on my mind. What I'm looking for is some kind of guarantee with the parking problem. And if it persists, the alternative, like Dave said, is no parking. But can we do that if we find we have a problem with this?
Yeah, to restrict parking on a public street, you'd have to just follow the town bylaws, which I think requires a public hearing and at least 2 weeks' notice. So Dave's right, it would probably take up to a month, probably, and you, I'm sure, solicit input from DPW, police.
Okay. So you're going to have plenty of time to address it and take care of it, I hope. If it doesn't, then I'm sure you know what the alternative is going to be. Probably no parking in that area.
Yeah.
Up to you to see what you can do with it, and hopefully we won't have to address it later. And that hopefully satisfies the neighborhood if, you get it cleared up and be good neighbors, I guess, if that's what you want to call it, so.
No, yeah, we are good neighbors. I start parking there because I saw cars parking there, right? So the Sandwich Farmers Market used to be there. People was parking in that park. People go for a dog walk close to the park there, to the beach there, and they park there. So I'm not the only one who parks there. But if the town decide to close the parking for everyone, we have to respect that. But I'm parking on a current spaces where regular cars park and people go for a walk and park there. I'm not doing nothing new like wasn't doing before. Again, even the Sandwich Farmers Market was in that park.
I mean, these are the things that happen, right? So something's happening, there's people there that are parking on potentially a temporary basis, then it starts to turn into like an all-day parking situation, right? And then it just ends up having to be taken away because we don't have a lot of other choices.
I understand.
So that's, I hear you, but we have to look at it from the perspective of what serves everybody in the best way.
Totally.
And that's really the path that we generally take.
Totally understand and I respect it. If I see a sign like
Generally,
says no parking,
Not everybody wins in those scenarios, but it's probably the best possible outcome for all concerned. That's really what we try to do.
Yep.
So
like I said in the beginning of my participation, I'm looking for other options, considering all the uncomfort of the neighbors. But again, I'm not parking in a place where it says no parking.
I understand. I totally understand. But you understand where we are too,
No,
right?
that's what I said. I understand.
Okay.
Okay, I see in the application that the building department had some comments and
Yeah, I think just in light of some of the questions that we had, there's a brief report from the building commissioner just giving an overview of the operation, the special permit conditions, some of the complaint history about the trash pickup, how they worked with the owner, and that's been, as best we can tell, resolved. It talks about the parking and zoning determination by the ZBA from last year, I believe. So, just basically the conclusion is there's no outstanding violations. I know from all the background checks are all good. All the normal things that we would check on a request for a beer and wine or all alcohol license are all fine.
and emergency services had no
No comments.
no comments? Okay. And your proposed entertainment will all be indoors,
Correct.
and you still need a permit?
Sorry again? I didn't hear you the last question.
We need a permit.
Oh, we need a permit, yeah, we have to submit it, same process. I request the abutter list. They was going to call me if I can pick it up today, but wasn't ready, so I expect maybe tomorrow I will present the whole permit to go in front of you guys and other boards, necessary boards.
Okay. Does anybody from the public have a question for the applicant? Well, would you come up and speak into a mic, please, and identify yourself? Sure, he'll share it with you.
Hi, Ron Murphy, 6 Charles Street. Was the time frame, because you mentioned 6 to 9 at night, but was the permit from that period or from 6:30 in the morning to 9 at night?
Well, they have a special permit to operate their business today, okay? So whatever the hours are on that special permit, those are the hours that they're allowed to operate, period. as it pertains to the liquor license, if they want to stay open from whatever additional hours they want to stay open,
Yeah,
they need to get the special permit amended to do that.
okay.
The perspective of the liquor license, our authority, as regarding the time of the liquor license, our authority is to allow them to operate beyond 11 p.m. or not. Okay? So we can't tell them you can only serve liquor till 8 p.m. That's not
but I mean-
what we're allowed to do.
Does it start at 6:30 in the morning when they open, so it's...
No, it starts at 10 a.m. What is the time? I think it's 10 a.m. These are blanket rules for all license holders in the Commonwealth.
Okay.
Yeah, and if I start selling alcohol, well, we have to go through the evenings extended, but if, let's say, my hour operation for now is like 6 a.m. to 5 p.m., I want to start serving alcohol before noontime.
That's up to you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, could you just come up to the microphone, please? Unfortunately, there's other folks that are watching this, and they can't hear you. But you're welcome to have a seat right here and use this microphone so people can see and hear you.
Could you tell us how many coffee shops there are in Sandwich that have liquor licenses?
Off the top of my head, I know of one other.
Me too.
And then we have a coffee shop that sells
Could you
sells
tell us
retail liquor for carryout.
What the name of that coffee shop is?
So Lambert's has a package store license, right? They're a coffee shop and sandwich shop, and they sell food, and they have a package store retail license. Nana's Cafe has a liquor license.
I think ours Tapas, they technically serve some,
Yep, they
Some
have a liquor
breakfast
license,
stuff.
and they have the coffee shop in there.
Brown jug?
Yeah.
brown jug.
Yeah, either way, I would tell you that we don't have the authority to deny a license based on the type of business.
These don't seem like exactly coffee shops to me, the ones you mentioned, but okay, thank
I
you.
was trying to give you my best answer.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public?
This special permit that was received for a snowy owl, February the 4th, 2020, it shows very clearly here where it says deliveries, where they're parking. I mean, I don't understand. There's a special permit here. It doesn't say they're going to park in those two spaces right adjacent to the building. I mean, isn't that a violation of the original permit? Here, where it says loading only. This is where they park, right here on top of this. It says loading only.
Oh, in the
And they
front-
have
in the front of the
people-
building.
They have people sitting there with
Yeah, so
picnic
that-
tables, and they also park right here, and it's not
Yeah.
marked on this.
I think this is a building department issue, to be honest with you. I don't know who enforces these special permits? Is it the
I
building
was just
department
gonna
or the
say,
ZBA?
there's plans for every business that come in. I've never known it to restrict like where you can drop off stuff on any other property. I'm not sure. Like, I'm sure Stop and Shop probably has loading areas in the back, but yeah.
Could you just talk into the microphone, please?
I did speak with Manuel before he opened, and I said, parking is a huge issue. I'd like to know where people are gonna be parking. He assured me, oh, no, it's just gonna be grab and go, grab and go. And I said, well, what about this spot here? He said, oh, deliveries only, deliveries only. They've been parking there since day one, in those two spaces, right adjacent to the building. And then all of a sudden, this kind of quasi-planters came up, and people are sitting out there. And reach him to speak with him. He had we share the same electric pole. He had a wire that was supposed to get connected or tied off. We called him 10 times and left message after message. And we never heard. And then the things he told me before he opened, that they were not true. He didn't abide by any of that. And the parking issue, so now I'm gonna have people parking in front of my house from 6 a.m. till 10:30 p.m. because obviously employees have to stay and clean up. It's just, how can I believe, he says he wants to communicate with the abutters. I didn't even get a letter about this last meeting. I got the letter on the previous one, so everything that he's saying is ringing hollow with me. I forgot to say, it is Betty Lyons, 207 Old Main Street.
Mark Lyons, 207 Old Main. I do want to say that before Snowy Owl came in, there were people parking there, but they were dog walkers. There were people that would walk down to the boardwalk. They were there for 2 or 3 hours, not all day, and not 12 cars. We've been there for 20 years. We know. We have firsthand experience what goes on in that green. And it's all day. And we've been dealing with this for 5 years, and we're tired of it. We're up to here.
I think like all what we have right now on the parking, they mentioned next to the mailbox parking there, that have been approved by the town. When I mentioned to her on 2020-21 was grab and go, is because we was in the middle of the pandemic, no furniture inside, it was a grab and go. Then things changed. We just opened right when we was the pandemic. So, again, if you guys check my operation from the last 10 years I'm in business in the Cape, I never have issues in any of my locations. And again, you know, I'm willing to keep trying to find alternatives for parking, and I'm working on that.
I would just say, sorry, I apologize.
Do you have any plans today to expand your on-site parking?
Correct. So that's another conversation I have with the office on my property, because I own the property. I'm not just a tenant there. We own the property. So we have between my current parking lot and the train rails is a space there like we are considering to increase, but that's a big investment, like we are looking for it. But that's not a possibility, of course, if the town of environmental resources and the building department approve it. So I'm in conversation with the building department to present a proposal for to increase the parking lot size of my own property. Correct.
So you're working with the property owner?
I am the property owner.
Okay. Yes, sir.
I was just going to say, we're not really here to mediate the parking issue. It's a real issue. I've talked to the Lions about it extensively. I've talked to other folks about it extensively. I've heard from a lot of folks in town about how they feel about it. I think you know how I feel about it based on our conversation tonight. And I think I'm making my personal commitment to everyone that this issue is getting solved one way or another. So we're not going to solve it tonight, but we're going to find a way to solve it. Okay? And I hope that you're making that commitment to us as well. It needs to be solved. I appreciate that you're trying, but we need to find a real solution to it. And you know what the nuclear option is for us: no parking. Yeah. And we have this issue with another parking issue in town as well, and we're going down the road. So we will do that if that's what we have to do. Again, I'm not trying to threaten you, but it's just we have to do what is in the best interest of all concerned.
Yeah, understood.
Okay?
Okay. Anybody else? Motion to close the public hearing.
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Mr. George, second by Mr. Hockter. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that aspect is unanimous. Now,
The only other comment that I just want to make is that, so you have a license at your other location? You're
Correct.
getting the license here. Is that the first license you've held, the one at your other location, and where is it, in Brewster?
Correct.
That's first license. So the other thing I would just say, right, so as it pertains to holding a liquor license, the licensed premises is as shown in the application. It's indoors only. People can't be drinking outside, right? If we start getting complaints from neighbors about people drinking outside or other violations of the license, then we have problems. So I ask that you have the right management in place. Everybody understands the rules. We don't have to deal with these types of complaints. We really don't want to have to do that, right? And just generally speaking, if there's any concerns, problems, or questions with the license, the town is here as a partner to you to assist you. The best thing you can do is to call our office and raise those questions and address them proactively.
Totally. I have the best experience with the town of Sandwich, having conversations and discussing any kind of challenge arise.
Very good.
All right. Make a motion, we approve the annual on-premise wine and malt liquor license, Snowy Owl Coffee Roasters LLC, 161 Route 6A, manager, Manuel Orlando and Zian was manager.
Second.
Motion by Mr. George, second by Mr. Hockter. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Best wishes for success.
Thank you.
Thank you.
They're within the rules. Okay, second public hearing. In accordance with Town Charter Section 7.3B, the Sandwich Select Board will hold a public hearing on Thursday, April 9th, 2026, at 7:10 PM in Sandwich Historic Town Hall Auditorium, 130 Main Street, Sandwich, Massachusetts, on the proposed FY27 budget for town meeting. Anyone wishing to be heard on the subject will be afforded an opportunity at that time. Motion to open the public hearing.
Make a motion, open the public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Mr. George, second by Mr. Hockter. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous. Okay, Mr. Dunham, you're up.
Yeah, I'm not sure if there's any questions from the public. I think every meeting we've been going over the summary of the budget for since late January. If I just had to summarize it super quickly, we're in really good shape financially. We're still setting aside money in our stabilization fund and OPEB account. Both the school department and the town operating budget requests came in under 3%. Heather and I were at a meeting today where 9 towns were there. 6 of those towns are going for overrides, most multiple. Several communities off Cape are going. A lot of towns, for lack of a better word, have hit the financial wall. We haven't. We're still in good shape. The budget we proposed this year has more of a projected excess levy reserve than the last 2 years. We're living within our means. We're still making significant appropriations towards our capital needs. I feel like we're in really good shape. We've worked hard to try to maintain get control of our health insurance costs as much as locally we're able to do that. And I think if you ask most communities, the biggest drivers that they're experiencing it are regional schools and health insurance costs from what we heard today. So just in general, I think we're in really good shape. Things look really good headed towards town meeting. 2 other quick things that are worth noting. As always, so far we're only going by what the governor presented in her budget at the end of January. The House budget, which is the next level of government that is supposed to release their budget, has not been released yet. Heather and I were saying, it's been eerily quiet. We haven't heard any great things negative. We haven't heard any great things positively. I think what I always get nervous about is our tuition assessments that come on our cherry sheets. When the governor issues her budget, it's not based on any projected enrollment data. When the House comes out, by then, all public and regional charter schools are supposed to submit their projected enrollments from each community for the following year. So it'll be the first true up that we'll see. Historically, that number is typically higher from the House than from the governor, but we'll see. It's also true that historically, as the budget works its way through the legislature, typically the Chapter 78 is up for the local school, which is great. And sometimes the discretionary aid is up as well. The only other thing I wanted to highlight, for the first time in over a decade, we do have a deficit in our snow and ice account. There are still bills rolling in. Based on all of our projections, right now, currently, we're about 260-some thousand in the hole. We plan to set aside 300,000 at town meeting. We'll have an actual amount, by the 1st of May, we'll know a lot more. It's very interesting to see how this will proceed, but the Senate voted to support an extra $100 million appropriation to be given to cities and towns to help address snow and ice shortfalls, because it's happened everywhere. The release that we saw in terms of information was that 80% of the money would be distributed based on each community's Chapter 90 formula, and 20% would be distributed on another formula to be determined. That's just one house of the legislature, and then it still would have to go to the governor. If that had legs and made its way through, and we knew before town meeting, it wouldn't surprise me that we'd need significantly less than 300,000. I know what our Chapter 90 formula is. I know what we get with a typical $200 million appropriation. So if it's $100 million, with most of it coming on the Chapter 90 formula, most of that shortfall should be covered if the state approves it through the next two steps that it has to go through. Hopefully, where you don't want to carry over those deficits, the state would entertain trying to move that quicker than the normal budget. If it's part of the normal budget, we won't know it until well after town meeting. So I could go into more, but I think it's very safe to say from the school budget and the town budget, primarily a level service budget, both coming in under 3%. I challenge you to find any town in the state where both the school and the town are coming in under 3%. I saw a survey of 12 towns on the Cape, and 6, the 12, were asking for overrides. And again, almost every community is asking for multiple ones, i.e. for their local school, for their regional school, for the tech school, for themselves. I know one of our neighbors is asking at the same ballot an override for 27 and an override for 28. I really feel, knowing what I've known through the years and what we've done and tried to be super careful with some of our money, I would anticipate we should be able to get by at least a couple more years, unless something crazy beyond our control, happens. But I feel like we're in the best shape we can, and the budget that we're presenting is really responsible, and there haven't really been any real questions at most of our meetings about it.
Thank you. Anybody else with a question for, I know we've had a lot of opportunity, but does anyone in the public have any questions for Mr. Dunham? Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me okay in that? There we go. That's
Light,
better. There you go.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Sean Murray, Sandwich. Yes, I did have a couple questions, but first I'd like to say to Bud, Heather, and your team, thank you very much. As usual, you did a fantastic job. I truly appreciate your due diligence. I saw the superintendent in the house also. Thank you very much. It was a very robust presentation this year. Thank you very much, and for your team. Yeah, and Bud, you started off my bailiwick, the tuition assessments. Yeah, they scare me. They're tough, and I will defer to the superintendent, obviously. But what I've been able to find right now, as far as the sending tuition formulas, starting with school choice, the Healy administration is doing a study. Gotta love that one. And they've given the study over to DESE, the Department of Education, Secondary Education. There are two bills in the Joint Committee of Education to maybe modify the reimbursement formulas. Senate 398, House 577 are on the table. They're just in committee. As far as the charter schools going, it's an ongoing debate, public versus charter, you know. So I really don't see a lot going on. I'm not holding my breath, I'll put it that way. So my question, but directly with that, is the reality, in my opinion, is that these are probably here for the foreseeable future. I'm not seeing any algorithms changing. Okay. So it's one of those things that you kind of suck it up and deal. And I also saw the Upper Cape was jumping on the bandwagon again this year, but that's that. We could talk about group health insurance from here to Sunday. It's not going to solve anything. I'll let that go. One question specifically with the OPEB, the other post-deployment benefits. I see you're adding $300,000 to bring the balance up to $3.9 million. FinCom mentioned that there is a substantial, their words, substantial unfunded liability. Even though you've got $4 million in there, what is the current estimates that they're referring to?
This is like rough. I think our estimated liability went down a hair, just under $125 million. So that's not like a bill that would hit us overnight. So I'll do my best to try to explain it, but it's an actuarial assessment. Hypothetically, if the town goes out of business tomorrow and it has commitments to pay people until they pass, how much would it cost? So there is a lot of debate statewide how realistic it is, but there's no debate that the bond rating agencies look at it. And so, you know, we had like $1 in there for many, many years. So in a relatively short period of time, we know with the interest that we're earning, we can be a little bit more aggressive with those funds that will be over $4 million, assuming the $300,000 gets approved in May. And then we're looking at presenting to the board probably this summer a policy that they could adopt without going into too many details. We also have a regular retirement assessment that we receive each year. So the town voted more than 25 years ago to start paying for the unfunded liability there. And I won't go into all the details, but long story short, based on performance, investments at the state level, you know, we don't control those investing those funds. We're part of a much bigger group. Sorry, my voice is a little off tonight. Right now, our assessment for the upcoming year is just over $5 million. Based on the projections, once we fully fund that unfunded liability that we started to do over 20 years ago, that number will drop by more than 2/3. There's a projection on what date that will happen. It sounds far away, but it really isn't. It's fiscal year, I think, 36. So in 37, we'll see a significant drop. So I think a policy that a couple towns have adopted that we've been working with some of our financial advisors on, could the select board, before the summer's out, adopt a policy where when that happens, a plan to take the difference and appropriate that to your OPEB account for a number of years, like a decade. Mm-hmm. That number should be pretty big, like $3 to $4 million by then, if not more. And once you have a bigger balance in there, I would think investment earnings would take care of a lot of it. Mm-hmm. The only two towns in the state that we've heard are thought of highly for their OPEB policy is Chatham, because they converted their old Cape Cod Land Bank 1.5% surcharge like we do with the CPA or the WIF. Really? They have a 1.5% surcharge for OPEB. Their plan is to get enough in the account, then stop it, and then have investments carry it forward. And then the other community we've heard is Wellesley has, voted to debt exclusion or override enough money over time to pay for that. But, if we could do what I said, apparently towns that have done that, when they've gone out for bond ratings, it's helped. Doesn't always make the full difference, but it's helped. And I would think if we could be diligent and try to do that 10 years from now for 10 years, you would have enough of a meaty amount that it would be substantive to really knock that projected deficit, because they're projecting out forever, not just a certain number of years.
Good. Thank you. I knew you'd know the answer.
TMI, no.
I knew you'd know it. Article 11 talks about the WIF, the Wastewater Infrastructure Investment Fund, 1.6 million. I'm looking for current estimates, long-term cost. I know they're upwards of 160 million over time. But when do you envision the first debt exclusions to start coming to the table?
I mean, there's so much permitting and state approvals that are needed first. Like, I don't think it would even, I would guess it's at least 5 years before you'd ask for a debt exclusion. It wouldn't impact people for probably 10 from now.
Okay.
Because you wouldn't, the numbers are so big, you wouldn't borrow it all in the beginning. You'd want to spread it out.
All right. Now, the reason I asked that, because of what's going on later in the meeting here with the $55 million package. So it explains if there's going to be a 5-year debt exclusions down, why that capital stabilization fund wouldn't work. I know, it's just, particularly if you're going to go to special with this package. So, but there's your conflict right there. So, yeah. That's really all I got. Yeah, because I was looking through the Comprehensive Water Resources Management Plan, which is dated. It's 2017, but that's going to be a big number, even with Phase 1. 2,300 per, with current assessed values per household. So, just something to consider when you guys sit down for the $55 million later on. So, just want to point that out. All right, thank you very much. Appreciate it. And thank you. I forgot to mention, you guys. Thank you for your due diligence, also. Thank you.
Anybody else from the public?
Gene Perini, 6 Piccadilly Road. One question. I think we're all familiar, Bud, with your budget summary for fiscal year 2027, showing roughly $108 million in revenue and expenditures and so forth. So when fiscal year 2027 arrives, the town of Sandwich will also receive other revenue not listed on the budget summary. For example, grants, awards, settlements, and so forth. We know that our library receives many grants, many thousands of dollars in grants and awards. Our police department, many departments receive grants and awards for sometimes specific purposes. Is there a document that outlines every grant, every reward, the expenditures, and the balance?
Yeah, I would just point out in the budget itself, if there's any funding that's received for operating expenses, most of those departments net off those expenses. So with the library, the state aid to libraries, plus the Weston Memorial Funds, if you look on the cover sheet, like their total budget is then reduced by the anticipated amount we'll get from those two sources. The only grant funds that we get that I know get used for annual operating expenses, because the police department and the dispatch oversee the E911 primary answering point, we get about $125,000 a year, so that's used for training of the dispatchers and for equipment. And then the other one is the Senior and Community Services Department receives a a medium-sized amount based on population and services to help fund, and so they use it to fund some of their volunteer coordinators, some part-time funds at the Center for Active Living. Those are the only ones I get that I know of on the town side that fund operating things. Almost all the others are for specific projects or things that we apply for. But the accounting office, you know, can run a report that would show all the grants we have and, you know, what's in the account to start the fiscal year and what's in there now.
Yeah. I would like to see that, I mean, just as a preference, I would like to see that be part of your budget documentation. I mean, I'm just one person, but I can't make a motion for it, but I think it would be helpful for town residents to know what we receive on an annual basis in grants and awards and settlements and how it's being expended. And I know some of it is for very specific purposes. And I've just never seen the document, but would like to at some point. Thank you.
Thank you.
And what the balances are.
Anybody else from the public? Motion to close the public hearing?
Make a motion, we close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Mr. George, second by Mr. Hockter. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Make a motion to approve it?
Please.
Make a motion, recommend to approve the fiscal year 27 budget for town meeting.
Second.
Motion by Mr. George, second by Mr. Hockter. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous. Thank you. Public hearing, Verizon and Eversource request. The Sandwich Select Board will hold a public hearing on Thursday, April 9th at 7:15 p.m., sorry about that, in Historic Town Hall Auditorium, 130 Main Street, Sandwich, Massachusetts, 02563, upon the petition of Verizon New England, Inc. and NSTAR Electronic Company doing business as Eversource Energy to request permission to install one joint-owned pole numbered 9.5, 85 feet west of existing pole 1/9 on Tupper Road. 222-606-34. Anyone wishing to be heard will be afforded an opportunity at that time. Motion to open the public hearing.
Make a motion, we open the public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Mr. George, second by Mr. Hockter. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, good evening, and thank you for your patience.
Very welcome. Julie Longa from Eversource, and I'm here to request permission to install a joint-owned Verizon and Eversource pole on Tupper Road. The purpose of this installation would be to provide power for a new medical office building on Route 6A to use in Tupper Road and going in the back way.
Okay, thank you. This has been reviewed by,
Yeah, DPW and engineering
as I
support it.
see, yes. Okay. Does anybody have any questions for, yes,
I
sir?
have a question, and I'll preface that by saying I'm hopeful we're keeping this as simple as possible as we go down the road of public hearings tonight. But when there's a jointly owned pole by Eversource and Verizon, and it is damaged and needs to be replaced, who comes and fixes it?
Eversource is doing all of the installs of new poles now.
So Verizon's just not in that business of
They're,
replacing poles and
they're going
fixing
to
them.
remove all the double poles, but as of the middle of November of 2025, Eversource has taken over all of the installs, yes.
But Verizon basically has equal rights to use
Their
those
wires are
assets.
still on the poles, so they're gonna joint own them with us, but we will do all the installs.
Interesting. Okay, thank you.
Indeed, thank you. Anybody from the public have any questions? Motion to close the public hearing.
Make a motion, we close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Mr. George, second by Mr. Hockter. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous.
Make a motion, we approve the installation of the pole, Verizon, New England, and Star Electric Company on work order 2226064 as presented.
Second.
Motion by Mr. George, second by Mr. Hockter. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous. Thank you very much for your professional
Have a good evening.
courtesy. Okay. Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Joseph Marushak, Sandwich Public Schools recommended FY27 budget and related matters.
All right, good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure. Hopefully I'll be concise and non-controversial like polls. If you could forward it. So just an overview of the budget that the school committee approved back on January 28th. Basically, a lot of people put a lot of effort into this budget. We have a finance subcommittee of the school committee and the full school committee working in conjunction with our district and school administration. I'm a strong believer that starting out, you really should have goals behind your budget. Like Bud mentioned, what you have before you is a level service budget, basically providing the same programs and services to our students for next school year. We, at the end of last school year, had a team of 38 teachers, administrators, students, parents, community members. We were lucky enough to have Charlie to be part of the group in developing a brand new district strategic plan, a 5-year strategic plan. So we strongly believe that what we've put forward furthers our strategic objectives and initiatives in that plan. You'll see an additional piece that I've talked about in the past as far as some of the investments, capital investments in our facilities related to deferred maintenance. And then, as always, I see that fourth bullet point as the perpetual goal to always find efficiencies in our operation. Specifically, and I'll speak a little bit more about it, right-sizing specific areas, knowing that not only are we putting forward a high-quality program for our students, but also balancing that with fiscal responsibility. Heather? So as we do every year, obviously the first thing that we look at is what is our enrollment in the Sandwich Public Schools. Our official October 1st enrollment is 2,111 students across our 3 schools and out of district. Every year, right around the holidays, we get projections from an organization known as NESDEC, New England Staff Development Council, and they're projecting us to be relatively stable, probably in the ballpark of about 10 fewer students for next school year. So if you kind of look at the trend, there has been talked about before, a pretty dramatic drop going back a little bit over 10 school years. But if you look over the last 4 school years, it has stabilized. If you look, next slide please, Heather, the projections looking out 10 years, 10, 11 years in the future, it also shows a relative stabilization. Now keep in mind, The first 5 years of those projections are probably the best because those are children that are actually born. They use live birth rates for our community, and they also look at mobility rates, but it does show a stabilization. So with that, and with the support that we received, in my humble opinion, we have very reasonable, very optimal class sizes across the district. So as you can see, at Forestdale, which is early elementary, we have very reasonable class sizes as our kiddos are learning basic literacy and basic math. It goes up a little bit in upper elementary in grades 3 through 6 at the Oak Ridge School, and then at Sandwich Middle High School, at least grades 7 and 8. Grade 7 and 8, it's also, in my opinion, very, very reasonable class sizes. So our budget proposal, which you have before you, as Bud mentioned before, is a 2.60% increase over the current fiscal year for a total of $42,205,431. As I said before, it maintains level services, but also continues that forward momentum towards our strategic plan priorities. Staffing projects to be commensurate with enrollment. In many ways, and I've got some of the budget drivers, we're up to, I want to say, 10 retirees this year. It's a big, big year, and we're seeing more of the baby boomers who've had 30-plus years in our school district retire. So there will not be any layoffs this year. It's just part attrition and the way some of these positions fall. And again, planned efficiencies. The school committee has felt very, very strongly. This is my 4th year as superintendent. Good chunk of that, Kevin has served as the chair of the school committee, and a huge emphasis of the conversation has been, how can we take any of those efficiencies and put them back into our facilities and address some of our needs? And there's one major project that I've talked about before that the budget includes. Heather? So the projected funding, and I think, Lord knows you've probably seen the one-pager that Bud and Bill put forward going back to December, I want to say. We are using the House 1 budget, which is Governor Healy's budget, for our Chapter 70, which I believe came in at, I think it was $60 additional per student. So that represents an increase of a hair under 2%, or $159,300. The rest would be the local contribution increase. Unfortunately, as the budget document talks about, Sandwich is considered to be a minimum aid district, like approximately 60% of districts across the Commonwealth. So unfortunately, the burden falls to our community. But the increase over FY26 is 2.76%, or $911,655, for the overall increase of $1,070,975, or an overall operational budget increase of 2.60%. So here are some of the main drivers. I'll cover the high-level stuff that, for the most part, is in bold print here. The first two are always going to be two of your largest drivers. Obviously, 70% of our budget is in staff. We are entering in the 3rd year of 3-year collective bargaining agreements with our 4 associations. Essentially, our teachers are receiving a 3.25% COLA. Most of the other units, specifically our educational support personnel, our custodians, and our administrative assistants, are somewhere in the ballpark of about $1.50 to $2 per hour range as far as the COLA. So if you take everything, including steps and lanes, for the 4 units, it's about a 3.21% increase. The second major driver is special education, largely due to out-of-district tuitions for our students who have some of the most significant needs and therefore need an out-of-district placement for very specialized instruction. So that's an increase in the sum total of a little over $200,000. Technology is something that we always have an ongoing commitment. Probably isn't a surprise. Overwhelmingly across the district, applications are used most at the secondary level. Most of our textbooks are now in digital format through students' Chromebooks. So, we have an ongoing investment as far as our cycle for student Chromebook replacements. Plus, we're looking to do replacement of our wireless access points because they're hitting up on end of life, both at Oak Ridge and at the middle high school. As far as building and grounds, this is the 3rd year of a replacement of the carpeting and essentially the carpeting in classrooms and common areas at both Forestdale and Oak Ridge. We've made tremendous progress. Heather, if you could maybe forward, I think it's 2 slides. I'm a big believer that a picture, says 1,000 words. That was a classroom at Forestdale on the left, and you could see that honestly is the original 1990 carpet. Now, to be 100% honest with you, that occurred after the pipe froze a couple winters ago, so it's probably dramatically bad, but you can get the sense of the vinyl tile that has now been replaced, and I think we're up to about 65% of classrooms between the 2 schools. So that project will be completed next year. I think if you could go back one more, other direction. Awesome, thank you. One of the big pieces that we talked about extensively at the school committee level is we did a transportation study, kind of looking at our efficiency. We are decreasing our buses from 19 routes in total to 17 across the 3 schools. That represents a savings of about $214,000. One of the pieces in there is an increase of $65,000 in the fixed asset lines for a new facilities cargo van, because we've generally been repurposing some of our old transportation vans. Heather? Teaching and learning, for the most part, and that covers a lot of our instructional materials, a lot of our professional development. That, for the most part, is level funded. As far as athletics, it's actually a decrease. I'm sure you're probably cognizant. We had 2 years in the South Shore League. We're going back to Cape and the Islands. I think overwhelmingly, people are pleased with that. So we represent a savings in the transportation line. And then essentially district-wide expenses are essentially level, a slight increase in our copier lease equipment and copying materials lines. Heather? We already saw that. So I believe in the document on the summary page, you see what I just described. I believe the summary of everything broken down by salaries and expenses. Overall, a 3.31% increase in all of our salaries. And Heather, our expenses are actually down But our overall increase is pretty flat, 0.48%. And largely, those expenses where you don't see the red is in the special education line. Heather? So as I mentioned before, we're very proud of the work that was done in our brand new 5-year strategic plan. I believe when it came out in the fall, I sent everybody on the select board a copy of it. This is really our blueprint of the work that we're doing moving forward. There really are 4, I call them strategic objectives. They're really the big rocks. They're the overarching goals that are really driving our work. Heather? A couple clicks here. So the first one, give me one more click, please. Yeah, got to get the pics too. The first one is really around teaching and learning and continuing the work that we're doing in improving our instructional practices, making sure we're meeting the needs of all of our kids while also aligning it with standards. Heather, 2 more clicks. The second one is really kind of speaks to the supports that we're putting in place for all of our students to really address their academic, behavioral, and social emotional needs from the early age all the way through high school. Heather? Second piece that there was a lot of discussion and a lot of passion about is really ensuring a positive and healthy climate and culture, but making explicit connections to the community. We're now in the 2nd year of a fairly robust career pathways program at the middle high school. So the first cohort of kids are now sophomores. Within the next couple years, these kids are going to be looking at meaningful internships in the careers that they're interested in. We're really looking to build a lot of those career-based experiences within our community, working with obviously our families, but community members. And then last but not least, probably hardly a surprise, ongoing work in addressing our facilities and capital planning. And part of it, and I know it was mentioned at the top of the meeting by Charlie in talking about what was discussed at last night's school committee meeting, in taking a look at our facilities and what do we need to do to really protect the investment of these 3 buildings that are now upwards of about 37 and 50 years old. So yeah, just click this a few times. This kind of, this goes back to what I presented in January and February to first the school committee and then the finance committee. But these are real headlines. I was at a regional meeting of superintendents yesterday afternoon, and one of the statistics that was cited was 41 communities across the Commonwealth are going for overrides. Okay, and if you know anything about override success rate, what is it, probably maybe 20-ish%. So I think there's a lot of, there's going to be a lot of challenging pieces across a lot of communities. There's going to be, at least in the K-12 education space, a lot of cuts. We're not in that position as well, and I'm remarkably grateful working with Bud and Heather. I'm grateful with the partnership with you as the select board, with the school committee. I do think things are very, very well managed. So we are in a very, very good place right now. So that's a very, very quick slosh through what we have. And again, the pieces that are in that strategic plan really kind of speak to these concepts that we are trying each and every single day with all of our students to ensure that our students have a sense of belonging, they have opportunities, they're afforded connections with their teachers that promote deeper learning, and so on. So if anybody has any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
I do. Watching the TV yesterday, where a young child brought a firearm into the school. Tonight I've just heard, we only have 2 resource officers.
We do. We have Dan Halloran, who serves Forestdale and Oak Ridge, and Mark Peterson at the middle high school.
Are we thinking of getting a 3rd one to cover all the schools? Might be a great idea with the changing of what's going on out there. God forbid something ever happens at the school, we don't have one.
I completely understand that point of view, but I also feel like the 2 officers that we have now work remarkably as a team. And granted, what you're alluding to, Bobby, is that situation in Swansea. I saw it on the news this morning.
Yeah.
I feel very, very comfortable with the situation that we have at present, and knowing that there's other people on the force that we're constantly in contact, you know, like Lieutenant Gilrain and so on. So they do work very, very closely and seamlessly. I think there's a lot of budgetary concerns and demands and so on. I think our current level of staffing is apropos.
I know what you're saying, but just from what I see every day out there, and, we've got our funding in good health. God forbid something ever happened where we don't have one of those officers in that school, we'd be looking back and going like, geez, we should have taken care of that. Is it something we're going to look at? I mean, I would feel more comfortable knowing that we have one in each school, because if you have an instance that come up, somebody's going to go to one of these schools and whatever they're going to do, they know where the resource officers are, and they know where there's none. So if somebody was going to pick a school, they'd pick one without a resource officer if they wanted to accomplish something what they were going to do that was bad. I'm just looking out there and saying,
Sure.
If something ever going to happen, the place to go would be, well, there's no resource officer. No one, they could probably get away with what they wanted to do.
But I could also say that we have a fairly robust district safety team. Charlie's part of it. Kevin's part of it. Let's just say Sandwich Public Safety is very well represented. Realize we also have 2 district security staff people on board. One gentleman is a former retired corrections officer.
Right.
So there never is a place where in any of the 3 schools where a school is uncovered, so to speak.
Yeah.
And again, I have a high degree of comfort with our connection with the police department and their due diligence as far as just their vigilance in working with us. But I do understand the point you're making, and I have heard that point from some parents.
Okay.
It was actually not that long ago that we were just at 1. I don't know if it's 2 or 3 years ago that, with Bud's support, that we got the second SRO.
2 years ago.
It's important to note that Bobby went hunting before school and kept his gun in his locker, so just side note. I do have some valid, actual comments, though, besides picking on Bobby. We got to get these jabs in these last few weeks here. So one of the questions I had, which I think you answered probably, is about enrollment projections and how much infrastructure and facility do we continue to maintain, and does it sustain 3 buildings? So it sounds to me like the current answer to that question is, for the foreseeable future, it looks like it continues to be 3 buildings based on those enrollment projections
Correct.
we shared.
Yeah, I believe it came up, it actually came up, I think, at one of the special town meetings where it was kind of posited, are we at the point where we could close either Forestdale or Oak Ridge? If you actually look at the enrollment of each of those schools, you know, in the ballpark of 560 and 650, and you were to put those students together, there just would not be the room. It's just not doable.
What is the general perspective, and I know this is new data, and I myself just got it about a week ago, but what is the general feeling on the assessment that was performed on the school infrastructure and just the general capital needs around the list of deferred maintenance, which I know is extensive, so I'm not asking you to go into super detail on that, but it's certainly a question that is on the minds of a lot of residents in the town as far as what is going to be coming down the pike to do more of this catch-up, and what is that going to look like?
I think what we've talked about is getting together in conjunction with myself and Bud, a committee, a working committee of a couple representatives from your select board, the school committee, and the finance committee to kind of do a deeper dive into that report and to see what are the most critical pieces that are needed and what are really the high leverage projects that we want to prioritize.
Okay.
I think that report represents everything soup to nuts. I think it's very thorough. I think it's very simple to understand because it breaks everything down into basically 3 buckets of, you know, you're looking at something from 1 to 5 years, 5 to 10 years, and then 10 years and beyond as far as the need. But I see it as this is really an investment to protect, this is really protecting the investment that this community made years ago in 3 buildings. And those 3 buildings, in my humble opinion, are still very viable, and they still have many, many years of life left to them if appropriate upkeep and maintenance is done.
They're made out of bricks and cement, so
Yeah.
I don't entirely understand when I see school buildings erased, they can build a new one in
Yeah.
some cases.
Yeah, we're not Lexington. We
I
don't
get
need a
that.
$600 million high school.
I have a couple more questions, if that's okay with everybody, right? Perfect.
Can I just comment,
please.
just follow up on him, on his comments? Since, from my time on the school committee, facilities has always been kind of one of my focus areas, if you will. If you saw a slide earlier, between the carpet and the tile, I don't know if you can go back, there's a picture there that also includes a change in furniture. And I'll get to the bigger point in a sec, but what you see there, we've changed some of the desks. It's not the old rigid desk metal thing that we all remember. If you look to the right, all those like student desks are on rollers, so they can move around and reorganize themselves and collaborate in different ways. So small investment on furniture creates a much more dynamic learning environment for kids. Every class, when I've done visits, every class we go into, it's a little bit different, and they say every day it's a little bit different because the kids are reorganizing themselves. So it's not as rigid as we remember from our days, or maybe a few years before me from Mr. George. Back to the FCA. I've pushed for this, and I appreciate Bud's support in finding the funding for it. I've always looked at it as my youngest is a high school senior, but I'm thinking about the student who's graduating the class of 2040. The chemistry lab is 50 years old. What are we doing? What is that school going to look like 15 years from now, 20 years from now? And if we don't have that conversation now, 10 years from now, we're going to be farther behind the curve. Five years ago, we did a debt exclusion for what was then the first phase of what was going to be a 3-phase maintenance effort. There was a second phase and a third phase to that. We're rolling into the 5th year of that debt exclusion. So the timing works out that, you know, we're going to have to revisit some of these things, and obviously any other previous study, you know, as previously mentioned tonight, you know, they're, you know, once they're on the shelf for 6-7 years, they're a little dated. This is the most comprehensive one that I've seen in my tenure on the committee. There's a lot to kind of dig in there. I'm not a facilities engineer. I know just enough to be dangerous. But I think one of the things I push for is we're going to need to do this together. It's not something that the school committee can do in a stovepipe. It's going to be us, select board, FinCom together, working together and figure out, as the superintendent said, you know, what are the biggest priorities, what are the highest impact ones, and then how do we strategize and manage this? And I look at that as my responsibility for the kids that follow. For the kids on that on that student census chart that haven't even been born yet, that's what we're doing this for.
And I think there's no question, right? Deferred maintenance with those school buildings has been a topic in this town for most of my life, probably, right? And certainly during my tenure on this board. So
We're
it's
not
not a new issue, right? It's just, it just keeps getting bigger, like other capital challenges that we have. How are we handling grounds maintenance at all the school buildings today? Is that being performed by internal staff or outsourced?
Overwhelmingly internal staff.
And does that include the wing school as well?
It does. As far as maintenance, we have an agreement to maintain just about all of those fields there.
Okay. And does the school department generate revenue from the wing school fields? Generate revenue from some of the fields, right? From leasing them out to lacrosse clubs and other entities, I believe.
Not a great deal, because overwhelmingly they are they're community youth leagues. So, for example, we have Sandwich Youth Lacrosse, which I consider to be like a power user, and they sign a multi-year agreement, and they have a tiered pricing that, let's just say, is very, very reasonable and also recognizes we're serving the community.
For those, like Sandwich Youth Lacrosse, Sandwich Youth Basketball was a big user of the gyms in the winter. We kind of take the approach of those are community buildings that the families in town have already paid for. The organizations are 501(c)(3)s, so we structure them so that with the goal of breaking even.
Yeah.
Like we should not, we really shouldn't be trying to make a dollar off keeping our kids active, but likewise, people who don't have kids playing those sports shouldn't be subsidizing it either. I think we come pretty darn close. It's never going to be perfect, but for basketball, for instance, we pay the fully burdened rate of the custodian. There's additional money in there to cover utilities, and then the organization resurfaces the floors because they're a heavy user. So it's a nice balance that works for the community.
Yeah, I mean, just one of the items that's on
Sorry, the last point. The tiers he talks about, there are sometimes theater clubs that are run by for-profit organizations. They're priced differently, which is appropriate.
Just as it pertains to the wing school, right? And part of the reason I asked the question, right, because the wing school doesn't exist anymore, but the property still exists, and it's really disconnected from the rest of the school system, right? I don't know if you have teams practicing or playing on those fields at all, but I don't think so, if I had to guess.
Not the Little League fields, which are managed by Sandwich Little League. The what is it? Is it Morse Road? I should know the road all through these years.
Around the back?
Bigger one, in the back parking lot, the American Legion Field, Babe Ruth Field. That is used by middle school baseball. So that is used by the schools.
Just one of the things I think is important, and I know that there's a component of this to the long-range plan for the town, and it's been discussed here, and you guys have probably discussed this on and off, but what does the maintenance of the wing school property look like over time? Especially since the school is no longer there, and now there's these apartment buildings there, right? And there's like kind of some stray components of the wing school that exist, like the bus loop and the basketball hoop and the potholes. And, at some point, we need to all figure out how to come together to make that property something that the town can be proud of, because it is in the center of historic Sandwich.
Sure.
And there's all these new apartment buildings there, right? So how that property is maintained over time is something that I just recognize on an ongoing basis as I drive by there most days. And I think it's something we need to mutually determine the best path for, right? And I'm not certain that the school department continuing to have custody and care for that property is necessarily the right thing. I don't know.
Yeah, to my knowledge, Dave, the only thing that our two fields guys, Chad and Brian, do is the fields that we're responsible for, they cut the grass. I'm sure there's, fertilization, core aeration, but other than that, as far as basketball court or curbing or any of that, we don't touch that.
Yeah, I just think it's an opportunity that needs to be addressed somehow. I'm not saying that you guys have to do it, but I just think we need to mutually find an opportunity to do it. And I think it would be of great value to the community.
I'm in complete agreement with you on that one.
All of that aside, I appreciate you coming in tonight, and I appreciate where the school's budget came in this year, especially from a percentage perspective. Having sat in this seat for a number of budget cycles, this is not always what we see. So thank you.
You're welcome.
I thought Rec was involved in the Wing School fields with the new basketball court and the...
Yeah, I think there's land that's closer to the north side of Morse Road that is still under town control. Where the
tennis courts used to be?
Yeah, so there's the multi-purpose, similar to the, I don't know what you call it.
There's a basketball court there that can also be used for essentially floor hockey or street hockey.
Yep. And there's also a beach volleyball court there.
Yep.
That's under rec.
Yep. And then just dialing back for a second to the safety issue. Well, not this specific event, but it's why we have safety meetings. And it can be on the table at the safety meeting, see what the professionals think our risk is.
Yeah.
And then earlier, if you don't mind, I might have missed it, but 30 retirements this year?
No, I think we're up to 10 or 11.
Okay.
Yeah.
And of those, how many did you replace?
6.
6?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
And the superintendent can speak to this better than I can, but usually you're retiring that individual at the top of the pay scale, and you're bringing somebody in at a lower step and grade, just because they're going to be much younger usually. So we do that event that does work in our favor from a salary standpoint, but that's going to vary year by year.
Got it. Thank you. Anybody else?
Just one last comment, if you noticed, transportation, for a $5,000 investment on that study. In my gut, I knew we could be more efficient, but I'm no expert on bus routes either. That, for simple terms, think $100,000 a year per bus in a round number. We're reducing 2 buses. We looked at possibly doing more, but we don't want to disrupt the system too much. But there could be potential in the future that we could even further right-size that. But we didn't want to kind of overcorrect and find out that we overextended ourselves as far as transit times, how long kids are on the buses, can they meet the lineup for the next school, because they stack one school after another for 3 hours in the morning and 3 hours in the afternoon. But we continue to look at those kind of things where we can be more efficient.
Thanks again.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
It was nice to see you. Okay. Old business.
Yeah, I'm not going to say the same thing over. If anyone has any, it's similar to what we talked about under the public hearing. I will say that if I had to characterize what we heard, most communities are going for overrides for. It's for assessments they're receiving from other places. But very interestingly, that there's a recruitment and retention issue, and so a huge portion of many of these overrides is to fund agreed-to contracts, because they've been struggling to keep and retain people, and they have to pay more. So it's sort of interesting, what's happening elsewhere. So
Okay, do we need a,
Budget, we're good to go, I think. Yeah.
okay. Finalize the May 4th annual town meeting warrant.
It's fairly late. I think most of the people in the audience have heard this multiple times. Like, if you want me to go through the articles, I will. I do have a proposed motion. The final draft, our final draft of the warrant went to town council last week, waiting for comments back. Same thing about the motion. So there's a simple motion there that if you vote it, it finalizes the warrant with any language changes that town council would recommend or typos that we find, stuff like that.
I think we're fine.
I agree.
Same one. Move that the board finalizes the articles on the annual town meeting warrant as presented, with any language changes recommended by town council, and posting the signed warrant by the required deadline.
Second.
Motion by Mr. George, second by Mr. Hockter. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous.
I think the plan, assuming we don't get major changes, which we won't, from town council is like probably post it by the end of next week, which is about a week earlier than we typically do and a week or two earlier than we're required to. So we'll get, as soon as we're able to do it, we'll post it and then put that on the warrant, on the website and everything else.
If we need to, which I agree that I don't think so, but we'll have another bite at the apple on the 23rd if we need to.
Yep.
Okay. Now, recommended Department of Public Works Fire Substation Project. I know I'm only one individual here, but I think we should all be here to exercise this vote, not just the 4 people in attendance tonight.
I'm agreeable.
Okay, so we'll
I mean,
defer
was
that.
kind of the decision we made last week, but
Yeah.
the only thing I would say is that puts us out 2 more weeks. So if time is an issue for anybody, and then everybody says it's not, so great.
Yeah, it's a big enough project, I think we all need to chime in.
Right, well, we could plan on the 23rd, but, you know, it's not on the town warrant.
That's right, and it won't be.
It's a
Will
special.
not be on the warrant for this annual town meeting. which
Right.
We've mentioned before, but this is not an immediate item.
As much as I would like to get it behind me, I think we could wait another couple of weeks to get everybody's opinion.
Can I make a comment?
Yes, Bob. Mr. George,
After
excuse me.
some consideration, what I'd like to recommend, and you can think about it, is what they took away was the, like the sewer shop, the vehicle reduced DPW storage area, the maintenance area they took away, the DPW. And then you go to the fire department, they took away 1 bay and reduced the sleeping quarters. If we look at what they took away and what it's gonna cost in the future to bring it all back, it's gonna be astronomical. So what I'd like to, like Shane had talked about it, it's kinda ridiculous that they kinda took that away just to save a few $1 million. I'd like to bring those pieces they took out, except for the front of the buildings with the brick and whatnot, they can leave that off if they want. But actually, the sleeping quarters, of the vehicle protection areas and whatnot, put those all back on it and go forward with it and let the townspeople decide if they want to do it or not. If they don't, well, then we have to go back to the drawing board.
I
So,
I appreciate the point. The department heads were satisfied with this, to say the least, and we might have other options in the future.
What What I was looking at what Shane was talking about, the actual cost of what we take out now and what it's gonna cost us in the future, because we know, we got sewage coming, the town's growing, the fire department, is gonna grow, we know that. We have, the wing school project going, we have the 130 that may go. And we know we're gonna have to enlarge these buildings. So if we don't do it now, we're gonna be paying double, triple from what it's gonna cost in the future. The same thing we did with the Council on Aging building. We talked about the gym, the walk-around thing that we did for the people there. And we said, maybe we do it later. Well, if we do it now, it's gonna cost X amount of dollars. If we do it later, it's gonna be double or triple. Worked out great, everybody loved it. And I think we saved a lot of money for the future of that building by doing what we did. And I think we're looking at the same thing right here at this project. Let the townspeople decide. If they don't want to do it, well, then we have to come up with a different plan later. But I think we're going to save ourselves some money if we go back to what they took out of it. But we can talk about that in a couple of weeks, whatever.
Sure.
That's my thought.
I always appreciate your thoughts, Bob, Mr. George. You know, it's like everything else, it's a double-edged sword that, you know. We were asked to take another look at it, the committee was, and we did, from top to bottom, so. Okay. Other matters not reasonably anticipated by the chair? I have none.
Just one,
Yes,
and I
please.
got 2 phone calls on this week, was the captain's site.
I'm sorry, the what?
The captain's site,
Oh,
that came, I got 2 calls on that this week.
Yeah, I know we gave them formal notice in January, and we had them in early February, and I know town council has said, you need to give them at least 6 months' notice if it relates to their liquor license. I did hear from the building commissioner that his contact at DEP about the testing for asbestos and other hazardous materials, that person was told last week that a tester has been selected and will go out. I mean, we don't really have anything to do with any of it, but that's what we've heard. And I did follow up the day after the Gassioses were in. I followed up with a clarification, pretty detailed on, you know, what was asked that night. So literally the next day.
thank you.
Did they address, did they address the tarping or whatever, the fencing? That had come up as well?
Yeah, I think it had fallen down twice and it's been reset up twice.
But is it true that they could test the materials there? They don't have to ship them out anywhere, they can do it there?
Yeah, I believe they can test on site. It's only if they come back a certain thing, you
They
have
got
to
anything,
get
yeah.
proper disposal. But they can test on site, yeah.
There's a big cost savings there without
Yeah.
having to ship away.
Yep.
And we've been in contact with the owner.
Yes, yep.
Do we set a time limit now, once we've
It's up to them, but if they don't act on their license, you can have them back in late July, early August.
They almost agreed to turn in the license when they were here last time, so I don't know if that's the big driver for them or not. I don't know.
Well, the timeline is 6 months?
So you have to give 6 months formal notice, and the letter went out third week in January, I believe. Then you'd have to hold a disciplinary hearing to consider revoking the license if it's not being acted on or if progress isn't being made.
I guess, I mean, yeah, because it's just in, the phone call that I got was that, you know, it burned down, you know, significant time ago, and that it's still in that condition. Is it possible that we can get an update from the owner, whether it's informal through, you know, the
Sure, I
town
can reach
manager's
out.
office to just try and get is there an update on the reconstruction? Have they done anything on that, as well as the cleaning of the site?
I'll check.
Okay. Okay? New business. I believe the farmer's market has withdrawn their application. So other matters not reasonably anticipated by the chair, I have none. Opportunity for public comment? Okay, and closing remarks. If you don't mind please continue to pray for peace, for restraint among leaders, for protection of innocent life, and for justice guided by wisdom.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Motion to adjourn by Mr. George, second by Mr. Hockter. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Our next meeting will be on Thursday, April 23rd, here in Historic Town Hall at 7 p.m. Have a safe evening. Thank you for being with us.